Good morning. On behalf of Operation Rock, my name is Clayton here today. Unfortunately, somewhat late. I just had to move people. They say it gets darkest before the dawn, people. I have come to know that this is the truth. And I've had to become patient and change as a person overall just to manage myself and my own life. However, I was supposed to have a guest this morning to speak about the global problem within the family justice system where men face reporting and are basically just abused with litigation by false reports. But as I just said, I recently just had to move, and in recently moving, excuse me, um, I had to reset do my setup. You know how it is when you change your residence, you have to break everything down, put things back together, et cetera, et cetera. So in doing that, I realized that I have a horrible internet connection where I just moved. It seems like every morning that I am home, sometime between the hours of 7 and 9 o'clock, I lose all internet connection. Why, I do not know. I've been trying to figure it out for weeks, and it is not doing anything for me. But maybe I can just call someone from the cable company and figure it out. So we'll take that up another day. Anyway, I am trying to get back in touch with my guest, but I'm not doing the best job, unfortunately, because it seems like I've lost him. Fortunately for him, he happens to live in Australia, which is a beautiful country. And he is involved in the family justice fight and advocacy against false reporting and the economic and unfair litigation abuse of innocent male victims in domestic violence. He's an advocate for parental rights and the rights of fathers in Australia, and also a huge proponent for a man's for the male initiative to become more knowledgeable as the of the law, so you can protect yourself and the things that may happen to you in the future. However, I can definitely say that I do believe I lost him because being in Australia, he's on a 14-hour time difference. And something must have happened to his connection because we were literally just talking about 30 minutes ago. But we're not going to waste the day, people. As they say, the show must go on, and we can't let things stop us. So I'm going to just have to go, and I'll go a cappella myself, I guess, and I'll talk about it for a little bit because it's something I'm quite knowledgeable about. Basically, just looking into this gentleman's story and his history. As a male victim of domestic violence, you will face abuse. And that abuse may not be physical. Abuse doesn't always have to be physical in order for it to be a a form of domestic violence. That's not true. Abuse can be done to anyone who is put in a position where they become victimized. And by becoming a victim, it means that something happens that is wrong, either morally, criminally, or socially to you as a person. When this happens in situations of, I would say, intimate partner situations, sometimes either both person is wrong or one person is wrong. But usually, for the most part, there's usually two sides to a story, and both people, to some extent, may be wrong. The problem becomes when one partner becomes so, I would say, agitated or some vindictive that they decide to do things to gain revenge, to hurt or gain revenge against another person. And basically, what I speak about when I speak about that is the beginning form of what's known as litigation abuse. And abuse is the unfair and illegal practice of putting false police reports on someone so that you can continue to bring them into court to harass financially, economically, or socially, and possibly destroy their lives. It is very common. I would say it is 3 or 4 times more common than physical domestic violence. Because let's be honest, the police have done a pretty good job with domestic violence as far as locking the men up who violate those domestic violence orders. I'm not saying that physical domestic violence between men and women don't exist. What I am saying is that domestic violence has been it. I believe it's been reduced. I believe that men have become much more intelligent. Now there are a lot of idiots out there who still lose their temper and do put their hands on women, and they obviously are dealt with. But for the most part, men have become so knowledgeable. We do understand that if we put our hands on a woman, we're going to jail. And for the most part, most men have enough, I want to say, reserve about themselves that unless greatly pushed, they're not putting their hands on a woman. But unfortunately, it doesn't take a man having to put his hands on a woman in order for him to go to jail. It only takes the allegation that he has done that. And it has become incredibly easy for a woman to walk into a family court, with no proof, no marks, no evidence of being assaulted, and lie to a court to gain an order to use against a man for whatever her true goal is. Now, I'm not saying that all women lie in domestic violence incidences and they don't need temporary order protections. Obviously, that's not true. What I am saying is that a great deal of them do lie because something may have happened. We live in an incredibly, unfortunately, we live in an incredibly sexually charged time. There's not much fidelity. Fidelity has probably gone out of the window with the sexually charged climate we live in, which is fueled by social media. You look at Instagram, you look at TikTok, you see beautiful women basically in every clip. You see attractive men for the ladies out there. You know, it's kind of hard to be faithful in today's times if unless you are a truly grounded person and you truly care about the person you're with. A lot of people are cheated on. No one likes to be cheated on, and in being cheated on, people are hurt. Being hurt, a lot of people sometimes turn to revenge. That revenge turns into things they can do in order to hurt the other partner, to cause them as much discomfort, or to keep them away from whatever's this person may be doing to affect the life or the conditions of the person to whom they may have been with. I was personally in a situation like that. I was in a situation, I was with a young woman, I was unhappy. I decided to break up with her. I decided to start sleeping with other people. And I spent the next 3 years of my life being lied on to the police and falsely arrested and falsely litigated against by this woman and her bitter, disgustingly controlling family. Um, it got so bad, people, that this insane woman assaulted my infant daughter. The mother of my child knows this. They're literally, the mother of my child came after me for not reporting this woman for assaulting my infant child, placed an order of protection on me for putting my child in danger by this woman assaulting my child, which is all public record. And I was forced to be denied access to my child for 2 years. The mother of my child has used complete false allegations to completely lock me out of my child's life because of the fact that I did not tell her that her child got assaulted. And I have to say again, people, I was 100% wrong. In hindsight and in reflection and in maturity, I realized I should have told her and I should have most certainly called the police on this woman. And it's a mistake that I am paying for because I tried to do something good for someone who I thought was better than the mistake they made. Um, the sad part about that is, people, you think that a nation that concerns itself with allegedly a process, excuse me, like the family justice system, which allegedly, excuse me, positions itself as an institution to protect the welfare of children, would respect the fact that a man tried to do the right thing, people. But as me and my guest were to speak about today, unfortunately, we'll probably have our conversation maybe tomorrow because, again, he is on a 14-hour difference and he's totally not responding now. He lives in a bad area. So I'm assuming his connection completely died, which is not impossible because my connection was bad today. So, again, people, unfortunately, I will probably be back in a day or so and I'll have my guest who I was supposed to have next episode 72 on episode 72. Um, like I was saying, though, I believe in the family justice process now. It has become a total economic trap. That trap, I would say, I would compare it to maybe I would compare the trap to baseball, people. Basically, if you become involved in an intimate partner relationship incident, which is known as domestic violence for overall, you come into a situation like this. You come in with one strike if you're a male immediately. The domestic violence protection process, excuse me, was not designed to protect men. Law enforcement does not want to use it to protect men. I totally believe through my own experiences and through the research I have done, it is a tool to minimize and emasculate men. It is a tool that the legal system uses to create an industry to fuel the pockets of people who need jobs and who need careers. It is completely inefficient. It is completely backlogged. It is completely broken the family justice system. However, we as tax-paying citizens and those who are violated, until we come together, I would say overall, and we begin to speak about it, no one will know about the true injustices going on within the family justice system. Many times men are arrested, falsely arrested for false reports, and they'll say, you know what? I'm glad it's over. They have access to their kids back. You know, nobody likes going to jail. You don't want to go through that no more. You just kind of want to put it behind you and go on with your life when it happens. And for some people, they're able to do that. Like once their situation completely resolves itself, they're able to go on with their life, whatever the result might be. Unfortunately, sometimes you get into situations where if the other party does not win and you happen to win, they continue to come after you again. And in them coming after you, it creates the problem of you as the victim not being able to exercise the right to be left alone. Your problem becomes compounded if law enforcement chooses not to even enforce the conditions of, let's say, the restraining order that you were awarded. So now, not only are you being victimized by the offender who you have an order against to keep you away from you, you're being victimized by law enforcement who is refusing to grant you the laws that are afforded to you as a citizen of whatever country you're in. I know as far as with my guest, he was in Australia again, and obviously their parliament has put conditions and laws in effect and statutes in effect to protect people and citizens against abuse or domestic violence or against any violence. Much like America, I'm pretty sure they do have due process. And in America, the due process is a process that affords every citizen certain equal rights, regardless of skin, sex, whatever it might be. The problem again becomes people is when law enforcement chooses to deny you that civil right. When law enforcement chooses to not acknowledge your right as a victim to be left alone. And many times, again, people in domestic violence, at least within this country, it is racially based. If you walk into somewhere and someone doesn't like the way you look, you are instantly at strike one. If you happen to be a male and they don't like the way you look, you have two strikes against you. And lastly, if you are a minority, or excuse me, if you have a criminal record, means it doesn't even have to be related to domestic violence. It could be something totally unrelated to domestic violence. It could be for jaywalking. If you have any type of criminal record, that is your third strike and you are out. You have already walked into this process with one out, which means the person that is your opponent is on a clean slate. You already have one out. So you basically have two more outs until you lose the game. The unfortunate process with that, people, is unless you are you let me backtrack because I'm saying that wrong. You have to get to a point in your life, or you have to get into a point in your journey where you realize that knowledge is power and ignorance is not bliss. Anger will get you nowhere. It gets you absolutely nowhere. It is hard to refrain from anger. It's very hard to refrain from anger because you will be angry, especially if it's a situation where you're personally involved. Because this is someone who you may have once been intimately involved with and actually cared about, who may be bringing you through all of this hell in your life that you can't get them to stop and leave you alone. It's incredibly frustrating, people. It will drive you mad, especially if you have a proponent or an offender who is so obsessed with hurting you that they will not stop following you, that they will not stop trying to find some way to obtain a measure of revenge to justify their position in the lies they have told. Um, the cycle is crazy, people. It goes from hurt and then it goes from one to hurt to one of pride, especially with women, especially beautiful women. Because, see, attractive women feel that they should never be broken up with, especially attractive women who have been babied for most of their life. So if they get into a position with a man who, let's say, disregards them or decides that they are not as attractive or important as they may feel, or let's say this woman happens to do something wrong where this man says, you know what, I just genuinely don't like you as a person and I don't want to be with you. Let's say this man decides to cheat on them because it may not be them. It's not always the woman. The woman could have been a good woman. But let's say the guy is just a dog and he decides to cheat on her. Being an attractive woman, most of the time, what these women will do is they will get pissed. Like, who the hell is this nigga? Excuse me, this man to do what he just did to me. He can't do that to me. Absolutely not. And this is where they will get to a point where they become incredibly toxic and vindictive. A lot of times in life, people, I would say the best thing you can do is pray. Pray for the strength to continue to go forward and the knowledge to do the things you need to do. I can't give anyone direct advice on a global scale for two reasons. One, I'm not familiar with the laws in your country. I'm not familiar with the laws in your state. I'm only familiar with the laws in my state within the US. And two, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not legally allowed to give anyone legal advice. That is kind of a no. So I can't actually give legal advice on here. This is more of, I would say, an awareness talk. A talk that hopefully wake up the people who see this broadcast to realize that there is a serious problem going on within the family justice process with the economic litigation abuse imposed on innocent people by those who file false petitions and false reports. It is a process that is supported by corrupt DAs and public defenders who work in conjunction with each other to put orders of protection on people to gain leverage to have them cop out and get more deals. People, it's a I want to there's a word I want to use, but it may not be appropriate. It's a we'll just use the simplest words. People, it's a racket. That's all it is. It is a racket to oppress and minimize the rights of males and family and men overall. Um, my message is this, and my message is to all men who may be out there, who may have faced this, and even women, because women do face litigation abuse. Those who have truly faced litigation abuse, the worst mistake you can make for the cause is to go home and act like nothing happened. That is not the case. If you have legitimately been lied on by someone, legitimately been totally wronged by police, where they have denied you your right to be protected when you were awarded those rights to be protected, and you have a mandatory, and I would say social obligation to speak out with regard to that injustice. Because the only way you can help those who have come after you is by doing something about what happened to you. Every day you sit back and just try to get over the situation that happened to you, the same thing that happened to you is happening to somebody else. And they're beginning their unfortunately long and horrible journey into litigation abuse and intimate partner stalking. Because, in the simplest terms, it's not only about litigation abuse. Someone who is continuing to file false litigation on you in various places is actually stalking you, because by bringing you to court, they can see. And in seeing you, they are satisfying their need for you. Unfortunately, the legal process is so messed up, people, that these judges are not stupid. They're incredibly intelligent. They know what's going on. But people, again, it's about money. They don't really care about the personal rights and the emotional effect that what they are doing is having on the actual victim. They only care about the money, people. The money that the state may request from the federal government, excuse me, at least within the US, to request more funds to help them aid the cycle of domestic violence. See, people, here's a funny thing. If law enforcement took into account the false reports of domestic violence and started to arrest those who filed false domestic reports, the I would say the amount of domestic violence arrests would probably decrease by 30 or 40%. And that's a statistical fact. But see, here's the problem with that. If the arrests decrease, then the family court appearances decrease, which means they don't need as many court administrators, which means the judges don't have as many hours, which means the lawyers that feed off of that system by either being paid from the state or obtaining new clients don't get new clients. And people, that system will lose billions of dollars in revenue. And I totally believe this is why law enforcement will not arrest those who file false reports in domestic violence, while they take absolutely no action against women who lie on fathers to have women have the children withheld from fathers, while they take no action against women who may go out and just lie on a man because they are hurt, even once that evidence substantiates that the man may have never even been present when the woman made this report. Because once they begin arresting these women, other women will see, well, damn, she got arrested and she got this. I don't want to get that to me. So instead of them running out and falsely reporting their whoever it may be, they'll just back up and these reports will stop. So people, again, we have to look at the problem from a greater stance than race. Okay. And in my situation, yes, it was racially based, but the problem is more economically based. The problem is based on, I would say, civilized law enforcement and its ability to feed off of the injustice and the pain of innocent people, because that's all it is. It is a parasitic system where these supposedly ethical people feed off of the pain of innocent people and children. Now, if the children really matter, you would think that the best interest that as soon as law enforcement is able to obtain information that one party lied, and if it's the party who initiated the process, that they would do something about it. Because at the end of the day, that would fix the problem. If you were able to determine that someone lied, and this is why we are here wasting taxpayer dollars fighting a case for a petition that was filed in vengeance, then you should take appropriate legal action and penalize that person. And that would do so many things. One, it would alleviate the pain and the unfortunate suffering of the person who may be going through it. which should be paramount and most important. Two, it would alleviate the financial strain on the economic system that is imposed by the probably public defender who may be defending this liar, by the judge who's on the bench, by the court reporter who's taking notes, by the police officer who may be in the courtroom. People, that right there is several $1,000s that would be taken away. So again, people, is what I'm saying a rant, or is it a legitimate argument that maybe, just maybe, the family justice system has become so corrupt that it is now a racket that parasitically feeds off of innocent people just to keep people employed and money in other individuals' pockets? And that's just simply the truth. So I'm not going to take much longer because I'm really pissed that I happen to lose my damn audience guest today. But on behalf of Operation Rock, people will be back. And this guy was pretty cool. We had a great conversation. So I'm pretty sure once I am able to establish this interview, the information that he's going to relay is pretty great because he's incredibly knowledgeable. He definitely knows what he's talking about. He does have personal experience, which I am not at liberty to discuss, but he has a hell of a story. And even though it may be in another country, Australia, reading and looking into his story, I was so amazed by the things he was going through and the similarities between himself and I that I really wanted to do that interview today because I wanted to show others and at least show people from my own perspective, people that I'm growing. Again, people, I was a strong proponent advocating against the injustice of the family system as being solely racially based. But people, even though it's racially based, it's not. It is an economic trap. It is an economic conspiracy created by law enforcement to parasitically, feed off of men and destroy families. I am completely convinced of that. And until I can find some information, until I can see some evidence, until I see some good within the family justice system, people, I'm seriously doubt that my opinion will be deterred at any time. One story before I go. I had the pleasure of sitting in a courtroom. I'm kind of just in an observatory fashion because, again, people, I'm incredibly interested in the law now through my unfortunate experience. So I decided to get dressed and just sit in a family court yesterday and just watch the proceedings, watch how the court session went, watch the process, watch how lawyers introduce their judge, kind of like a law student who's observing court sessions. That's exactly what I did. So I sat there all day yesterday, from the time court started, so 4 or 5 o'clock, just watching these family proceedings, taking notes, statistical notes, noting procedure, noting different ways the DA interacted with the sexes, men, women, races, black, white, etc. People, because it's all important to the overall scheme of understanding the process. And people, I saw what I know to be the truth, people. 90% of the people who went through this courthouse were minorities. And again, I'm in the US. It could just be a solely US based problem because, again, the US is historically racist. We did have the civil rights movement. We did need the federal government to enact the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in order to have law enforcement grant minorities the equal rights, as white Americans. That's a fact no one can dispute. However, I sat there and I watched this and I just said, this is crazy. I would probably say 95% of the people who went through there were minorities. And I wasn't in a ghetto area. Don't mistake that. I was in Middlesex County, New Jersey, in New Brunswick. Not a ghetto area. Very expensive area, very nice area. Really handles all of the family procedures for, I believe, Middlesex County in this area. It may be divided between two places, but I'm not quite sure. I watched these proceedings and people, I just said to myself, I said, you know something, Clayton? You've been so angry, and it's not just you. They do this to all men who come through these courts. They totally disrespect us. They grant us no rights. They know these women are lying, and they refuse to hold the women accountable. So what can I really do? I told on my drive home, and reflected on my own situation. I said to myself, kicking and screaming was the worst thing I could do when it started. And I realized that now in maturity. I realized the true power, the problem is not my stalker. The true problem is law enforcement. The true problem is the prosecutors and the cops who refuse to do their job because they know by prosecuting these women who lie and file these false reports, they're taking food out of their own mouths. This is why they won't do it. And people, that is the exact reason the family justice system is corrupt. It is corrupt because the people who work within it realize that if they do the right thing by the innocent victim, when it comes to false reporting, they're simply taking food out of their own mouths and reducing their own pay scales. This is why they won't do it. So, on behalf of Justice People and on behalf of Operation Rock, I want to say, people, that this was kind of liberating for me. I'm really again disappointed that I lost this guy, but I think I got the message across overall. I'm gonna go back over my notes. I'm gonna go back and try to recontact this guy. I'm not gonna promise you we'll do this interview tomorrow because I got things to do and I got to go to church. But we'll try maybe for Monday night. We'll try to get him back up here. I have another gentleman, a doctor, who will be I'll be interviewing from Thailand, who deals with the family justice system in Thailand and the injustice that Thai men are facing within the Thai family justice system. People, I tell you, through knowledge is power, and through knowledge you gain the experience to see the world in a much greater span than you originally did. People, it is really sick what they are doing to men with regard to domestic violence and trying to destroy the family structure. And that's even more, I would say that's even more substantiated, people, by how strongly they are promoting the LGBTQ movement. It makes perfect sense now. They're feminizing men and they're emasculating women, people, and I can't be a part of it. Not saying I have anything wrong against women being in power. If you're a strong woman, go for it, sister. But I can't let all women be in control of me simply because the family justice system needs to feed the pockets of people who may be employed or who receive financial gain from it. I don't think that's fair to a citizen in any social and allegedly civilized country. So again, people, on behalf of Operation Rock, this is Clayton signing off. We'll be back with 2 episodes next week. Hopefully, one will be with my original guest, who was dead. I believe his last name is Mr. Bentonelli, excuse me. And the other one will be with Dr. Claudio Noli, a Thai domestic violence advisor and psychologist who deals with emotional abuse and litigation abuse with men and women in domestic violence. He doesn't only deal with men, he deals with women also. So again, people, on behalf of Operation Rock, this was a great show. This was a great talk. We did it in 30 minutes, so we're winning. And oh, that's the doc right there. So I can't bring them on now, people. I had to go. We had a 9 o'clock appointment. So, people, enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend. Love is love. Stay strong. And anyone who is in a situation where you are being litigation abused, it's always darkest before the dawn, people. Stay strong. The cops may not believe you. Law enforcement may be ignoring your right to be protected. Judges you may be in some small, rinky dink, racist town where some racist judge is not acknowledging your right, or some unfair judge, let me be more than spancel on race, or some unfair, corrupt judge is ignoring your right to be left alone for the economic benefit that you being there provides the family justice process. I want to tell you to hold on, pray, be strong, educate yourself, and realize that the worst thing you can do is respond negatively to your offender. Do the best thing you can do for yourself by becoming knowledgeable. Stay away from your offender. Document every form of domestic violence that happens, people. And at the end of the day, the truth will tell itself, people, because someone can only lie so long. The more your offender lies in court, the court is recording that offender's lies. So it's building a transcript schedule, people. And if you are going through something like I have, where you have been stalked by someone who has lied on you in multiple states and in multiple counties, people, all you have to do is wait and use that paperwork, that paper trail to destroy them, people, and it will happen. You will gain your peace. You will gain your happiness. Your miserable offender will burn in hell like they deserve, people, and you'll be able to go on, live your life, have love, success, much happiness, and the things that you deserve as a person who just wants to move on and live your life. So again, people, on behalf of Operation Rock Injustice, people, spread the message, spread awareness into corruption and family justice, and support the movement, people. We're on Facebook. Follow us at Operation Rock on Facebook. Like, share, and follow, people. If you have a story with regard to your litigation abuse, where you have been horribly violated by the family justice system or by law enforcement with false arrest and false accusations and denied your rights as a person, contact me. I would love to share your story. I would love to get your message out there. So maybe where you are, more people become aware to help you fight the problem that's happening with you. On behalf of Operation Rock, people,